Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time it is, wherever in the world it is that you are. Welcome once more to another live stream of Alexandra Mayer's Live. And once more, we will embark page reading and commentary of the Bible, Modern English Version. Now, today is going to be it's going to be a little bit of a longer live stream than normal because I do want to get through quite a few of these chapters. And today I do happen to have the time. So we're going to start with Genesis 34. And just as a brief recap, yesterday we went over the situation revolving around Jacob and Esau. And for those of you who are not aware or who are just now joining this page by page reading and commentary of the Bible, Jacob and Esau are the twin sons of Isaac and Rebekah. Esau, unfortunately, even though he was the favored son of the two boys, at least by the father, he has been swindled out of his father's death blessing and his birthright by his conniving brother Jacob. Now, both of these young men, or men, because they're not so young at this point in the Bible, but both of them are favored by God. Keep in mind that as we move forward through Genesis, we're really incredibly focused on Abraham's descendants. Now, Abraham has already passed on. Isaac was his son, the one that's most mentioned in Genesis. But as we move forward, we're really focused on the lineage of Abraham. So it's very interesting. But again, today we're going to go into Genesis 34, Genesis 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, all the way up to 40, because the goal is to get to the end of Genesis by the end of this month so that we can do an audio listening party. And I will do it via video so that you guys can see me, of the book of Enoch. And that is going to be quite the endeavor, getting through the audio book of the book of Enoch along with commentary. But I think it will be worth it because there's so much in the book of Enoch that directly relates to the book of Genesis. So I just think it's something that we must cover. And also, it was just brought to my attention that there is a lost book of Abraham. So perhaps in April, we can get into that because I think that would be a fascinating um, piece of knowledge to go over. I'll have to look more into the legitimacy of it, of course, but that's just something that crossed my desk the other day. And I was like, the lost book of Abraham, I must know about this because we're focused on Genesis right now. So, anyway, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into Genesis 34. I will provide my commentary as I deem necessary, and I hope all of you enjoy this page by page reading of the Bible. It's a Monday marathon, it's a Monday biblical marathon of sorts today. So, enjoy. Dinah is defiled. Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land. When Shechem, the son of Hamor and Hivite, prince of the land, saw her, he took her and lay with her and defiled her. He was very smitten by Dinah, or Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the girl and spoke kindly to her. So it wasn't so much a rape, even though we're using the term defiled in this modern English version of the Bible. But keep in mind that it was important for marriage to take place before a young girl loses her virginity at that time. It still is today in certain circles. So that's what happened with Leah's daughter. And for those of you who are not aware, Leah is one of the wives of Jacob. Jacob has two wives. He was more so into Rachel, her sister, than he was Leah, but Rachel turned out to be barren. He didn't know that until they got married, though. And Leah was the firstborn, so that's how that happened. Anyway, Shechem spoke to his father, Hamor, saying, Get me this girl for my wife." Now, Jacob heard that Shechem had violated his daughter, Dinah, but his sons were with his livestock in the field. So Jacob held his peace until they came. Hamor, the father of Shechem, went out to Jacob to commune with him. The sons of Jacob came out of the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved and they were very disturbed because Shechem had disgraced Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing that should not be done. So everyone's mad now at Shechem because he jumped the gun. He was supposed to get married to her first before he defiled her. So something's going to have to happen. Something's going to have to be done about this. Hamor spoke with them, saying, "The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. I pray that you will give her to him to marry. Make marriages with us, and give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. You may dwell with us, and the land will be before you. Dwell and trade in it, and get possessions in it." All right, so Shechem's father is trying to smooth things over. He's like, okay, let's just go ahead and totally join our families together. Let's not make a thing of this. So Shechem said to her father and to her brothers, "Let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me, I will give. You can make the dowry and gift I must bring high, and I will give according to what you say to me. Just give me the girl to marry." All right. So keep in mind also, he doesn't want his family to have a bad reputation, because even if Dinah was if she consented to what Shechem pulled here, still Shechem would basically be seen as a rapist in those days. And that was not a good thing, just as it isn't today. It's just not. It would have been interesting if the Bible had mentioned the ages of Shechem and Dinah. I would be curious as to that. The sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor, his father, deceitfully, because he had defiled Dinah, their sister. They said to them, "We cannot do this. To give our sister to one who is uncircumcised would be a disgrace to us. But we will consent to you in this: if you will become as we are, that is, every one of your males be circumcised, then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if you will not listen to us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and we will leave." So, in other words, they all got to cut their dicks. I probably should not have said it like that, but that's the reality. That's the reality. That is the covenant that was made between Abraham and God for a multitude of reasons. Go back to earlier chapters of Genesis to learn about that. But that's the thing. It's not enough for Shechem's family to pay in order to smooth things over. They have to join into the covenant and undergo the circumcision. So will they do it? Let's find out. Their words pleased Hamor and Shechem, Hamor's son. The young man did not delay to do the thing because he wanted Jacob's daughter. Now he was more respected than all the household of his father. So Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of their city, and they spoke with the men of their city, saying, "These men are at peace with us. Therefore let them dwell in the land and trade in it, for the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters as our wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition will the men consent to dwell with us and be one people, if every male among us will be circumcised as they are circumcised. Will not their livestock and their possessions and every animal of theirs be ours? Only let us agree with them, and they will dwell with us. All who went out of the gate of his city listened to Hamor and Shechem his son, and every male was circumcised. All who went out of the gate of his city. So everybody did it. They all did the circumcision. On the third day, when they were all in pain, two of Jacob's sons, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, took their swords and went to the unsuspecting city and killed all the males. Woo! I didn't expect that. They killed Hamor and Shechem his son with the edge of the sword and took Dinah out of the house of Shechem and departed. The sons of Jacob came upon the slain and looted the city because they had defiled their sister. They took their flocks and their herds, their donkeys, and whatever was in the city and in the fields. They took captive and looted all their wealth, all their little ones, all and their wives, even all that was in each house. Wow. So while the guys were in pain from the circumcision and trying to heal, they all got killed by the family of Jacob. Wow, I did not expect that. Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, "You have brought trouble on me by making me revolting among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites. Our being few in number, they will gather themselves together against me and slay me, and I will be destroyed, both I and my household." But they said, "Should he treat our sister like a prostitute?" Wow. And that's the end of Genesis 34. Wow. I actually did not expect that. I did not pre-read this. Well, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's brothers, just were not going to have it. They were not going to have this guy Shechem defile their sister, in other words, lay with her before marriage, and get away with it and be like, "Oh, we can smooth it over. I'll just marry her." Okay. So that kind of alludes to Leah having some very high standards for her children, her daughter. That's good. Because Leah would have been a dominant influence over her children. And she just wasn't going to have that, because it seems that Jacob really didn't know what was going on. But in the past, we have seen some very influential mothers in the Bible. So I have to say, when it comes to that slaying of the men in that city, I would have to say that's attributed to Leah. Leah wasn't going to put up with her daughter being treated that way or regarded that way. Okay. And keep in mind, over the years, Leah hasn't exactly been treated so well because she was not as beautiful as her sister, Rachel. Her husband never really gave her the same attention as Rachel. Her husband served actually 14 years, close to 14 years, in order to attain Rachel as a wife, but he only had to serve 7 days to attain Leah as a wife. So Leah would have embodied a certain level of anger. So she finally, likely through her sons, and again, I'm extrapolating here. This is my interpretation of the Bible, but she finally had enough when her daughter was defiled and was like, "That's it. Sons, listen to me. Kill them all." That's my interpretation. So let's go into Genesis 35 now, okay? Jacob returns to Bethel. Then God said to Jacob, "Arise, go up to Bethel, dwell there. and there make an altar to God, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau, your brother." So Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, "Put away the foreign gods that are among you. Purify yourselves and change your clothes. Let us arise and go up to Bethel, and there I will make an altar to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me wherever I have gone." So they gave Jacob all the foreign gods which were in their possession, and all their earrings which were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the oak which was near Shechem. As they traveled, the terror of God was on the cities that were around them, and they did not pursue the sons of Jacob. So Jacob came to Luz, that is, Bethel, which is in the land of Canaan, he and all the people who were with him. There he built an altar and called the place El Bethel, because God had appeared to him there when he fled from his brother. And for those of you who may just now be joining, whether you're listening live or as a recording, you have to remember that Jacob fled from his brother who wanted to kill him. So it's kind of ironic that his brother wanted to kill him for taking the blessing, and he fled. And now all these other people are scared of him because of what his sons did in regards to killing um, everyone in that city due to their sister being defiled. Now, Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died and was buried beneath Bethel under the oak. So it was called Elon Bakuth. God appeared to Jacob again when he came out of Padam Aram and blessed him. God said to him, "Your name is Jacob. Your name shall not be called Jacob anymore, but Israel shall be your name." So he called his name Israel. God said to him, "I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations will come from you, and kings shall come forth from you. The land that I gave Abraham and Isaac, I will give to you, and to your descendants. After you, I will give the land." Then God went up from him in the place where he had spoken with him. Jacob set up a pillar in the place where he had spoken with him, a pillar of stone, and he poured out a drink offering on it, and he poured oil on it too. So Jacob called the name of the place where God had spoken to him Bethel. The deaths of Rachel and Isaac. Okay, so now this is a documentation of Isaac and Rachel, the parents of Jacob and Esau, passing away. They journeyed from Bethel, and when they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel went into labor, and she had a difficult labor. When she was in hard labor, the midwife said to her, "Do not fear, you will have this son also." As her soul was departing, for she died, she called his name Ben-Oni, but his father called him Benjamin. Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. So it seems that Rachel later was able to conceive. Okay, but she died after this child. Jacob set a pillar on her grave. It is the pillar of Rachel's grave to this day. Israel journeyed and pitched his tent beyond the tower of Adair. When Israel lived in that land, Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard about it. Uh-oh, he shouldn't have done that. Now the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon and Levi and Judah and Issachar and Zebulun. The sons of Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. And the sons of Bilhah, Rachel's maidservant, were Dan and Naphtali. And the sons of Zilpah, Leah's maidservant, were Gad and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, which were born to him in Padam Aram. Jacob came back to see Isaac his father in Mamre of Kiriath Arba, which is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had sojourned. Now, the journeys of Isaac were 180 years. Okay, so Isaac lived to be 180 years old. And Isaac breathed his last breath and died, and was gathered to his people, being old and full of days. And his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. So people were still living pretty long in those days. Isaac lived to be almost 200 years old. And thank you for joining today, Mr. Happy. I appreciate that. All right, Genesis 36. Esau's descendants. So now we're going back to Jacob's twin brother, Esau. Esau. Now here are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan. Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite, and this is a hard name for me to say, Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zibeon the Hivite. Okay. And Basemoth, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nebaioth. Adah bore to Esau Eliphaz, and Basemoth bore Reu, and Oholibamah bore Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. These are the sons of Esau, who were born to him in the land of Canaan. Then Esau took his wives, his sons, his daughters, and all the people of his house, his livestock, all his animals, and all his property that he had acquired in the land of Canaan, and he moved to a land some distance from his brother. For their possessions were too great for them to dwell together, and the land where they were foreigners could not sustain them because of their livestock. So Esau settled in the hill country of Seir. Esau is Edom. These are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomites, in the hill country of Seir. These are the names of Esau's sons. So time to get into the genealogy here. Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau, and Reuel, the son of Basemoth, the wife of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz were Teman, Omar, Japho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Timnah was a concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bore to Eliphaz Amalek. These were the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. It's very interesting to me how they do mention and really give a lot of credit to the concubines of this time. It's just very interesting to me how it was very common back then and acceptable for there to be wives, meaning multiple wives. Then you have concubines on a different status level. Very interesting. But that's how it went back then. I mean, today, I would say concubines, which are a form of prostitutes, really, are less acceptable today than in biblical times. I think a lot more families and marriages would stay together if the idea of concubines was more readily accepted today than it is. I really think so. And you would probably have children with a much more healthy mindset as they become adults. Because when it comes down to it, a lot of men just are not going to be loyal to just one woman. I'm not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong. It's just human nature. And it's in the Bible. So let's continue. These are the sons of Reuel: Nahath, Zerah, Shema, and Mizah. These were the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah and daughter of Zibeon, Esau's wife. She bore to Esau. Jeush, or Jeush. It's spelled Jeush. Jeush. Jalam and Korah. So Jeush, Jalam, and Korah. Those are their three sons. The chiefs of Edom. These were the chiefs of Edom, sons of Esau. The sons of Eliphaz, the firstborn son of Esau, were Chief Timon, Chief Omar, Chief Japho, Chief Kenaz, Chief Korah, Chief Gatam, and Chief Amalek. These are the chiefs who came from Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Adah. These were the sons of Reuel, Esau's son. Chief Nahath, Chief Zerah, Chief Shammah, and Chief Mizah. These are the chiefs who came from Reuel in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Oholibamah. I'm having a hard time saying this name. Let me try again. These were the sons of Oholibamah, Esau's wife. Chief Chief Jeush. Forgive me, y'all. These are some names that I have never spoken before, but it's important to get it right. Here we go. Chief Jeush, Chief Jalam, and Chief Korah. These were the chiefs who came from Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Esau, who is Edom, and these were their chiefs. Now let's get into the section called the sons of Seir. These were the sons of Seir, the Horite, who inhabited the land: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anah, Dishan, Ezer, and Dishan. These were the chiefs of the Horites, the children of Seir in the land of Edom. The children of Lotan were Hori and Homam, and Lotan's sister was Timnah. Okay, so we're mentioning some women now. That's good, finally. Because many of the women are not mentioned in this. These, from my perspective, are likely not the only children. These are the notable ones. The children of Shobal were these: Alvin, Menath, Ebal, Shepho, and Onam. These were the children of Zibeon, Aiah, and Anah. This was the Anah who found the water in the wilderness as she fed the donkeys of Zibeon, his father. The children of Anah were these: Dishan and Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah. These are the children of Dishan: Himdan, Eshban, Ithran, and Karen. The children of Ezer were these: Bilhan, Zavan, and Akan. The children of Dishan were these: Uz and Aran. These were the chiefs that came from the Horites. chief Lotan, chief Shabal, chief Zibeon, chief Anah, chief Dishan, chief Azer, and chief Dishan. These are the chiefs who came from Hori among their chiefs in the land of Seir. So it's important to note the distinction of the chiefs. We'll find out why later, I am sure. The kings of Edom. These were the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before they reigned any king over the children of Israel. Bela, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinah. Bela died, and Jacob, the son of Zerah of Bozrah, reigned in his stead. I'm sorry, Jabab, not Jacob. Jabab, I misread that. Jabab died, and Husham of the land of Temani reigned in his stead. Husham died, and Hadad, the son of Bedad, who defeated Midian in the field of Moab, reigned in his stead, and the name of his city was Avith. Hadad died, and Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his stead. Samlah died, and Shaul of Rehoboth by the river reigned in his stead. Shaul died, and Baal Hanan, the son of Akbor, reigned in his stead. Baal Hanan, the son of Akbor, died, and Hadad reigned in his stead, and the name of his city was Pau. His wife's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mesahab. These are the names of the chiefs who came from Esau, according to their families, according to their places, by their names: Chief Timnah, Chief Alba, and Chief Jetheth, Chief Oholibima, Chief Allah, Chief Pinion, Chief Kenaz, Chief Taman, Chief Mibzar, Chief Magdiel, and Chief Eram. These were the chiefs of Edom, according to their settlements in the land of their possession. Esau was the father of the Edomites. So that was Genesis 36. We learn about Esau's descendants, his family, the chiefs of that land, Edom, his lineage. I have a feeling that some of those people will come up later. So I felt it was important to know all their names and whatnot. Sorry if I flubbed up many of those names. I'm doing my best. Joseph's dreams, Genesis 37. Before we get into that, let me get a drink of water. All right, here we go. Joseph's dreams. And yes, some of those names, they're not crazy. I'm a native English speaker, so I'm not so great when it comes to syllables. But to somebody else somewhere else in the world, maybe those names are easy to say. To someone else in the world, maybe my name would be a mouthful. Alexandra, 4 syllables. So, it's just a matter of getting used to certain languages and things like that. It's actually interesting when you think about it, how many popular English names nowadays are derivatives of some of the names that we've heard that are slightly complex to pronounce. All right, Genesis 37, Joseph's dreams. Now, Jacob lived in the land where his father was a foreigner, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the boy was with the sons of Bilhah and with the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. Joseph brought back a bad report about them to his father. Really? Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. So there we go again, sibling rivalry, sibling jealousy, the favoritism a parent has of one child opposed to the others. Let's see what happens here. Now Joseph dreamed a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to him, "Please listen to this dream, which I have dreamed. We were binding sheaves in the field. All of a sudden, my sheaf rose up and stood upright, and your sheaves stood around it and bowed down to my sheaf." His brother said to him, "Will you really reign over us? Or will you really have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more because of his dreams and his words. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "I have dreamed another dream. The sun and the moon and the 11 stars were bowing to me." Hmm. You know, maybe Joseph should have kept his dreams to himself because he is coming off as a bit entitled. So I'm not saying it was right for the brothers to be envious of him and hate him, but he was kind of bringing a little something upon himself. But when he told it to his father and his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Will I and your mother and your brothers really come to bow down ourselves to you, to the ground?" So his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Joseph sold into slavery. Uh-oh. Now his brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them." He answered, "Here I am." Israel said to him, "Please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring back word to me." So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. A certain man found him wandering in the field. The man asked him, "What are you looking for?" And he said, "I am looking for my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding the flocks." The man said, "They have departed from here. I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dathan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dathan. When they saw him some distance away before they came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. Oh no. They said to one another, "The master of dreams comes. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into some pit. And we will say, 'Some evil beast has devoured him.' Then we will see what becomes of his dreams." So they were tired of hearing about Joseph's dreams and him having favoritism of their father and all that kind of stuff. They saw him coming. They were like, "Oh, here he comes again." But when Reuben heard it, he rescued him out of their hands, saying, "Let us not kill him." Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, but throw him into this pit here in the wilderness. But lay no hand on him, so that he might rescue him out of their hands and deliver him to his father again." That was Reuben's plan, okay? So Reuben felt bad, and he didn't want his brothers to kill Joseph. When Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his coat of many colors that he had on, And they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty, and there was no water in it. Then they sat down to eat, and looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing spices, balm, and myrrh, carrying it down to Egypt. Then Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let us not lay our hand on him, for he is our brother and our own flesh." So his brothers agreed. People then were horrible. They were like, all right, well, we're not going to kill him. Instead, we're going to profit off him so we can buy some cool stuff. Oh, gosh. Then when the Midianite merchants passed by, they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. They took Joseph to Egypt. When Reuben returned to the pit and saw that Joseph was not in the pit, he tore his clothes. He returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is not there, and where can I go?" They took Joseph's coat and killed a young goat and dipped the coat in the blood. Then they took the coat of many colors and brought it to their father and said, "This we have found. Do you know where it is your son's robe? Or do you know whether it is your son's robe or not?" So they didn't want to get in trouble with their father. So they basically tried to make it look like their brother had been killed in some other fashion and was dead because they sold him into slavery. He knew it, meaning his father knew the coat, and said, "It is my son's coat. A wild beast has devoured him." Joseph has without a doubt been torn into pieces. Jacob tore his clothes and put sackcloth on his waist and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and all his daughters. Oops, I lost my place. Hold on. This tablet's messing up. All his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, "For I will go down into the grave mourning for my son." So his father wept for him. Meanwhile, the Midianites sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. So Joseph's father, Jacob, thinks that he's dead, but he's actually alive and he's a slave in the Egypt area. So now let's go into Genesis 38. Judah and Tamar. At that time, Judah left his brothers and visited a certain Adullamite, whose name was Hirah. There, Judah saw the daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua, and he took her and had relations with her. She conceived and bore a son, and he called his name She conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. She again conceived and bore a son, called his name Shelah. He was at Kezib when she bore him. Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, so the Lord killed him. I wonder why he was wicked. Then Judah said to Onan, "Go have relations with your brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up descendants for your brother." But Onan knew that the descendants would not be his. So when he had relations with his brother's wife, he let his semen go on the ground, so that he would not give a descendant to his brother. What he did displeased the Lord. Therefore, he killed him also. Oh, wow. Okay, this is interesting. So God didn't want there to be any fornication without there being something produced. Okay. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow at your father's house until Shelah, my son, grows up. For he thought, he may die also, just as his brothers did. So Tamar went and lived in her father's house. As time went on, the daughter of Shuah, Judah's wife, died. After Judah was consoled, he went up to his sheep shearers in Timnah, he and his friend Hira, the Adulamite. It was told to Tamar, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. She took off her widow's clothing, covered herself with a veil, wrapped herself up, and sat in an open place, which is by the road of Timnah. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given to him as his wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute because she had covered her face. So prostitutes in those days covered their face. Interesting. We're learning so much about sexuality and stigmas pertaining to sexuality and culture revolving around sexuality back then here in Genesis. So Genesis 38 is where the pull-out method is first mentioned. Very interesting. And if you do that pull-out method back then, God might kill you. Gosh. Ooh. God had low tolerance for any BS back then. I like this God. I really do. I like Genesis God. Here we go. Let's keep going. And she said, what will you do? And she said, what will you give me so that you may have relations with me? And he said, I will send you a young goat from the flock. And she said, will you give me a pledge until you send it? And he said, what pledge should I give you? And she said, your signet, your bracelets, and your staff that is in your hand. So he gave them to her and had relations with her. And she conceived by him. She arose and went away. Taking off her veil, she put on her widow's clothing. Interesting. Judah sent the young goat by his friend, the Adulamite, to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he could not find her. She didn't want his thing. She just wanted his seed. Then he asked the men of the place, where is the cult prostitute who was at Enaim by the road? And they said, there was no prostitute in this place. So he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. Also, the men of this place said there was no cult prostitute in this place. Judah replied, let her keep them for herself, or we shall be laughed at. I sent this young goat, and you did not find her. After about 3 months, it was told Judah, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has turned to prostitution. And what is more, as a result of prostitution, she is pregnant. Then Judah said, bring her forth and let her be burned. Oh, they're going to burn the prostitute. When she was brought forth, she sent word to her father-in-law, saying, by the man to whom these belong, am I with child? And she said, please identify who these are, the signet and bracelet and staff. Judah recognized them and said, she has been more righteous than I, because I did not give her to Shelah, my son. He did not have relations with her again. Then it was time for her to give birth. There were twins in her womb. While she was giving birth, one put out his hand, and the midwife took and tied on his hand a scarlet thread, saying, this one came out first. But as he drew back his hand, his brother came out. Then she said, how have you made a breach for yourself? Therefore, his name was Perez. Afterward, his brother came out, the one that had the scarlet thread on his hand, and his name was Zerah. There are some interesting accounts of twin births. Very interesting. Lots of twins in these days. Esau and Jacob were twins, and now we have Perez and Zerah. All right, let's go into Genesis 39. Joseph and Potiphar's wife. Now, Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. The Lord was with Joseph, so that he became a prosperous man. He was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. His master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper. So, you know what? Even though Joseph was sold into slavery, he's actually probably in a better situation in Egypt than he was before, because there is something about Joseph to where he's a little bit different from the rest. He's, having these dreams. He seems to bring a lot of prosperity. So it seems that he's more valued as a servant or a slave than he was amongst his brothers, which is interesting. Joseph found favor in his sight and served him. So he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had he put under his charge. From the time that he had made him overseer in his house and over all he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house on account of Joseph. So the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. So he left all that he had in Joseph's charge, and he had no concerns regarding anything except the food he ate. Now Joseph was handsome and well built. After a time, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, "Lie with me." Oh, gosh. So here we are again. A little bit of disloyalty. A lot of disloyalty, actually. The master of the house wife was lusting after Joseph because Joseph was fine, according to the Bible. But he refused. Good for him. And said to his master's wife, "My master does not concern himself with anything concerning me in the house, and he has committed all he has to my charge. There is none greater in this house than I. He has kept nothing back from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" She spoke to Joseph every day, but he did not listen to her about lying with her or being with her. So Joseph had common sense, and he was not going to have an affair with his master's wife. But it happened one day that Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men in the house were there. She caught him by his clothing, saying, "Lie with me." But he left his clothing in her hand and fled and got outside. Oh, she's aggressive. Got some aggressive women in these days, as you do today. When she saw that he had left his clothing in her hand and had fled outside, she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, "See, he has brought in a Hebrew among us to humiliate us. He came in to me to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice." Oh, so she's going to cry rape now because he wouldn't be with her. This is horrible. Oh, when he heard that, I lifted up my voice and cried out. He left his clothing with me, fled, and got outside. She laid up his clothing next to her until his master came home. She spoke to him using these words, saying, "The Hebrew servant whom you have brought to us, came in to me to mock me. When I lifted up my voice and cried out, he left his clothing with me and fled outside. When his master heard the words of his wife, which she spoke to him, saying, "This is what your servant did to me," he became enraged. Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined. So he was in there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. The keeper of the prison committed all the prisoners that were in the prison to the charge of Joseph. So whatever they did there, he was the one responsible for it. The keeper of the prison did not concern himself with anything that was under Joseph's charge because the Lord was with him. And whatever he did, the Lord made it to prosper. Interesting. Very interesting. So Joseph is having some adventures. Yes, he is. And this is actually a story that has from the Bible that has been popularized into movies and musicals. Um, Joseph and the dream coat. There's a lot of derivatives of the story, but Joseph went through a lot, as have many of the descendants of Abraham, and as do many people today. The Bible didn't end with the New Testament, not in my opinion. I think that there's going to be additions to the Bible in the future, personally. But let's continue. Joseph interprets dreams. This is Genesis 40. We made it to Genesis 40. Sometime after this, the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and his baker offered their lord the king of Egypt. Pharaoh was angry with his two officials, with the chief of the cupbearers and with the chief of the bakers. So he put them in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard in the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he attended to them. They contended they continued to be in confinement for some time. Then the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, both had a dream the same night, each man with his own dream, and each dream with its own interpretation. And keep in mind, Joseph does interpret dreams, okay? He has some unusual gifts. Joseph came into them in the morning and looked at them and realized they were sad. So he asked Pharaoh's officials who were with him in the care of the Lord's house, saying, "Why do you look so sad today?" And they said to him, "We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter for it." Then Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to God? Please tell them to me." The chief cupbearer told his dream to Joseph and said to him, "In my dream, a vine was in front of me, and in the vine there were 3 branches. As it budded, its blossoms shot forth, its clusters brought to forth ripe grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup into Pharaoh's hand." Joseph said to him, "This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your place, and you will deliver Pharaoh's cup into the hand in the same way you did before when you were his cupbearer. But remember me when it is well with you, and show kindness, I pray you to me, and make mention of me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house." For I was indeed kidnapped out of the land of the Hebrews, and I have done nothing that they should put me in this dungeon. So Joseph is ready to go home, and he needs a way out. So this is what it is. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said to Joseph, "I also was in my dream, and I had 3 white baskets on my head. In the uppermost basket, there was all manner of baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them out of the basket on my head. Joseph answered and said, "This is the interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift your head from off you and will hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat the flesh from you." It happened on the 3rd day, which was the Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast for all his servants. He lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and the chief baker among the servants. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position again, and he put the cup into the Pharaoh's hand. However, he hanged the chief baker, just as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Oh no, he forgot him. Or he just didn't feel like helping Joseph. Open to interpretation. Wow. Okay. So today was a Monday Bible marathon. We did a reading and commentary from Genesis 34 up to Genesis 40. I appreciate those of you who stuck with me through today's Bible study. These were some interesting stories that we heard. We learned about Joseph. We learned about his brothers. We learned about the cultural differences, actually, between the Hebrews in the country versus the Egyptians in what was essentially the city. We went through a lot today, quite a bit. We went through Esau's descendants. We went through some of Jacob's descendants. We learned about the culture of concubines and the view of prostitutes at that time. It was interesting to learn about Jacob's sons having killed all the males in that particular city due to their sister, Dinah being defiled. That story surprised me. That was back in Genesis 34. That was very, very interesting to me. So tomorrow we'll pick it up again and we'll go into Genesis 41. So I hope all of you have a wonderful day today. Have a wonderful Monday. Have a productive rest of your Monday. I'm about to eat. I am starving now and get on with my day. So if you'd like to learn more about me, you can always visit alexandramarislive.com. Actually, you know what? This morning, I received some very, very, very good news in regards to a woman that I've been providing some supportive coverage when it comes to her having been extensively stalked and bullied and her having a court appearance today. Her court appearance went well. She still has some more court appearances coming up, but she was a bit fearful in regards to what would happen today. But her stalker did not show up. She found out that the outcome of what she went to court for wasn't nearly as bad as she thought it might be. So I'm very relieved for her. I feel good about that. And all this time, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I just don't foresee anything bad happening on this day today when it comes to her. And it didn't. So I'm very grateful to God for that. When it comes to her life, I hope that she can move forward in her life and maybe not make the same mistakes and, live more so of a life in the present and thinking more so about her future and the future of her daughter. And, we're all just doing our best, I guess, trying to be the best versions of ourselves. I'm still doing well when it comes to not drinking or smoking anymore. I haven't relapsed on that or anything. I feel great. I didn't exercise over the past few days like I should have, but I've been busy with some other things. So maybe later this week I'll get to do that. So take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye bye.